Welcome to National Pension Partners, where retirement planning meets peace of mind. Today, we're diving into the 412(e)(3 plan, also known as a fully insured pension plan. This isn't just any retirement plan. It's the gold standard for stability and guaranteed benefits. How does it work? Simple. It's funded exclusively by life insurance and annuity contracts. This means no market risks, no actuarial assumptions, just ironclad guarantees. Think of it like this. You're a small business owner who hates surprises. The 412(e)(3 plan gives you predictable, stable contributions every year. Your future benefits are backed by insurance contracts, so you know exactly what you're getting. No guesswork, no headaches. But there's more. These plans are designed to maximize your contributions and offer significant tax advantages. And with National Pension Partners, you're not just getting a plan, you're getting a team of experts, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, all dedicated to making your retirement as secure as possible. We provide personalized consulting, ensuring that your plan is tailored to your specific needs. Best part, initial consultations and proposals are absolutely free. $0, zero commitment. So if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. With the 412(e)(3 plan, your future is in safe hands. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. Perfect for small business owners who like their finances as predictable as Monday mornings. Stable contributions, ironclad guarantees, and serious tax advantages. It's the trifecta of financial security. And with National Pension Partners, you get a team of brainiacs, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, ensuring your retirement is as secure as Fort Knox. Oh, did we mention the free consultations? That's right. You get a personalized expert proposal with $0 down. So, if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. Because when it comes to your future, boring is the new exciting. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. For more details, check out National Pension Partners at nationalpensions.com. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling.
It's Thursday, August 29th, 2024, and I'm sure that across the world, many, definitely here in the United States, many a kid is jumping up and down because they are having to go back to school and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, I think that many of them returned in the last couple of days, and they are probably sitting there going like, "Drats, I'm back in school again." I remember that was my attitude. It was probably the attitude of Nick Palveda, Rick Rosner, and Jim Eade, who will be joining me very shortly as well, because definitely a lot of times when you had to go to school, it wasn't the most exciting thing to do. But yes, school is back in session here in North Carolina, and I'm sure it's in session in many other parts of the country, as well as many other parts of the world as well. And who knows, maybe they're talking about some of the things going on in the world if they are in that high school level, or maybe even in that junior high level as well. I'll have to ask my nephews if they're talking about world events and all along those lines. But one of the things that's going on is that Israel has killed prominent militants as it wages its deadliest West Bank raid since the Gaza war began. IDF says at least 12 Palestinian gunmen were killed in a wide West Bank operation. And it looks like a Hong Kong court has convicted a former Stand News editor of sedition. So, Hong Kong editor convicted of sedition in what some are saying is a blow to press freedom. So that's something going on in the Asian theater. And Israel Land Authority says it won't serve demolition notice to rescued hostage. So rescued hostage confirms Eri Zalmanovich was murdered in captivity while held together. So one of the quotes from the Wall Street Journal said, "Don't shoot, I'm Farhan. Israel hostages captivity ends with a cry in a tunnel." So that's something else that's going on. And of course, a lot of people are talking about Telegram's and their founder, because the Telegram founder has been charged with a wide range of crimes in France, and some people are saying that Telegram was a haven for free speech, but also possibly a haven for terrorists and child predators as well. So we'll hear what folks have to say about that. And apparently, the Telegram billionaire who was arrested in France faces unrelated criminal complaints in Switzerland. And Japan Typhoon Shan Shan is going on, and Japan is urging 4 million to evacuate as the lumbering typhoon threatens south with up to a meter of rain. So looks like they are preparing for a major disaster as the storm makes landfall, and definitely that's a lot of folks to try to move and everything. And as I was telling Nick, apparently sometimes we find things in the ocean that you would have thought they would have found a long time ago because they're big giant things and all along those lines. So the oceanographers have found an underwater mountain bigger than Mount Olympus. That's right, they say it's bigger than Mount Olympus. So the oceanographers have discovered a 2 mile wide, 2 mile high underwater mountain, new species, and a rare flying spaghetti monsters. So they're finding all kinds of things down there as well, including, like I said, 20 new species that were spotted at seamounts. So definitely that's something going on. And apparently this was found off the Chilean coast on yesterday. And Namibia plans to kill more than 700 animals, including elephants and hippos, and distribute the meat. So Namibia is apparently killing these animals to feed people amid the worst drought in a century. So that's something else going on as well. And unfortunately, a 16-year-old Jamaican teenager was found decapitated after a shark attack in Jamaica. So that is something else going on in terms of the wild and all along those lines. And a Thai court has sentenced a Spanish YouTube chef to life in jail for murder. So Spanish actor's son was jailed for murder and dismemberment of their lover. So that's something going on in Spain, as the YouTube chef was found guilty of a gruesome murder on a Thai holiday island. So that's something going on. And apparently Thailand jails for life the son of Spanish actor Rodolfo Sancho over this grisly murder. And Israel agrees to a brief pause in Gaza for polio vaccinations, according to U.S. officials. And Netanyahu is hinting at a partial Gaza truce to allow the polio vaccination campaign. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And far-right party is aiming for wins in 2 state elections as Germany's government flounders. So that's something else going on as the East rises in Germany, and apparently so does the political extremism. So it looks like that is something going on in that part of the world. And Brazil's top judge is given X until Thursday evening to comply with orders, or apparently face some sort of nationwide probably ban or something along those lines. So it looks like the Brazil Supreme Court is threatened to ban Elon Musk X. So it looks like he's got to do some things in terms of complying by this evening and all along those lines. So we'll see if he actually does that. And Yemen's Houthis will let salvage crews access oil tankers they set ablaze in the Red Sea. So that's something else going on as well. And of course, yesterday we did talk about the boy that accidentally destroyed the 3,500-year-old artifact in the Israeli museum. And apparently, Israeli archaeologists have also discovered a unique seal affirming the biblical account of Jerusalem some 2,700 years ago. So an ancient seal with a winged genie inscribed Jewish names has been found in Jerusalem. So looks like this is an extremely rare and beautiful First Temple era genie seal discovered in Jerusalem. So definitely looks like the ancient seal featured in Azarine demon from the First Temple period discovered in Jerusalem. So we're finding interesting things in that way as well. And University of Michigan student government vows to withhold funds from campus groups, and 4 were arrested at a pro-Palestinian protest at the University of Michigan. I believe that was yesterday, and all along those lines. So let me get to some U.S. news, and then I'll bring in my fellow panelists, see what they've got to say about a number of these things. And all along those lines, we do know that there was a Trump video at the Arlington Cemetery, and of course that steered all kinds of fallout after his gravesite visit and all in that space. I think there was even a clash with some of the security people there, if I'm remembering correctly, what happened and everything. And an Idaho murder suspect acquittal would lead to riots and good old boy justice, according to a survey. So Idaho murder suspect wants trial moved after survey result says town will burn the courthouse down if he's acquitted. So definitely that's something that's going on as Bryan Kohberger returns to court amid a fight to move the Idaho murder trials over fears of riots. So hey, those fears of riots can happen on all kinds of cases and all along those lines. And a Massachusetts detective charged in a pregnant woman's killing. And definitely that's something else that we're seeing, as well as the former Stoughton police detective faces litany of allegations in the death of Sandra Birchmar. So definitely that's something else that folks are looking into as well. So it looks like they're saying that the cop accused of sexually abusing the pregnant woman was charged with killing her and staging the death to look like a suicide. And an ex-politician has been found guilty of murder in a Vegas reporter's stabbing death and all along those lines. So a former Las Vegas official has been convicted in the journalist's death. So Nevadian politician Robert Tales was found guilty of killing journalist Jeff German and has been sentenced to life in prison. And Kamala Harris is to give the first big interview as a nominee in a key test of credibility. So we'll see how this all goes. I think it's both an interview with her and Tim Walz. So some people are critical that it has to be the two of them, but we'll see how this all goes on, as there is going to be this discussion as well. And Chinese leader Xi is meeting with U.S. national security advisors as the two powers are trying to avoid some further conflicts and all along those lines. So a vigorous give and take. U.S. security advisor discusses economic curbs in a rare trip to China. So China Xi pushes to keep U.S. ties steady through the bumpy presidential race. So that's something else that we're going on to hear as well. And the Harris campaign is mocking Trump over the muted mic debate. His own team wants to shut him up and all along those lines. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what goes on and what happens with this notion of the muted mics and all along those lines. I'd heard in one poll that apparently Trump is winning among the independents, and we'll see if this holds or not. But that is something that I was hearing as well, even though Kamala Harris is surging ahead of Donald Trump in latest polls taken after the DNC. So it definitely looks like Harris has gotten some bump from the whole convention that was held not that long ago and all along those lines. So like I said, I'm going to bring in my folks and see what they've got to say about a number of things. I've got two folks from the West Coast, Rick Rosner and Jim Eade. And of course, I've got my buddy Jatovi as well. And we've got other folks that are here, including Sasha Starr. And who knows, definitely we might be joined later by Nick Falveda and all in that kind of way. But
so the Paralympics started yesterday.
Yes.
And I think we're all aware of the cute white girl factor in news coverage, that if something happens with a cute white girl, it gets more coverage than like if it happens to other people. So you've got a super cute white girl, Allie Truitt, who had her foot bitten off by a shark a year ago, and she's competing only a year later in swimming. I don't think she did very well, but anyway, she's really cute. So she's gotten a ton of cover, plus shark attack. So it's all very compelling.
Yeah, like I said, there was a shark attack that was over there in Jamaica and everything.
Yeah, but that athlete will not be competing, since that athlete is minus his head.
Thanks for sharing, Rick.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were decapitated, so there's no Paralympic competition. Oh, also, let you know, in a couple of weeks, we're having the Chess Olympiad. Major media doesn't cover it because they're anti-intellectual. They hate anybody who's smart. So that's the reason Rick doesn't get any love from anybody, Rick Rosner. No love.
But apparently some love, because before the show started, we were talking. The Olympians ran through 350,000 condoms. And I asked, are they going to need that many condoms for the Chess Olympiad?
Oh, that's a good question.
Jim,
We have a chess expert who can tell us that and runs the chess show.
Well, apparently, Jim said that
Let's
there's also love.
move that over to Sasha Starr. Do they need condoms at the Olympiad, or what's your thoughts?
Well, right now, we just yesterday finished the fantastic Zinkfield Cup, where French Grandmaster, formerly Iranian Grandmaster Firouzja, triumphed there, and Caruana was second. And there is no information about how many condoms they used so far. And now the Chess Olympiad, that's upcoming great show. And if a few female chess players will be beaten by shark, obviously you will see about the Olympiad in newspapers.
Yeah, that's good. But
just point out, and this is a bad joke, I'm sorry, but just point out, since they did all the condoms for the Olympics, there's going to be a lot of Vaseline used at the Chess Olympiad.
Oh,
that was bad. But Jim, hold on a second. Jim said that there were players in the chess world.
He's an international FIDE chess master. So what's your comments, and what type of Vaseline do you use?
Well, enough about me. But I do say that the Olympiad are also, there's the Open, which is mostly men, and the women's. So there are women's teams playing alongside men's teams, and combination of men and women's teams. And so I know one grandmaster, Alex Yermolinsky, ended up marrying a woman from the Latvian team. So, the rumors that I have heard is that there is a lot of, but I would just have to say that the winner of the Zinkfield Cup earned $100,000 for first prize, and that buys a lot of condoms.
Yeah. By the way, who won the Zinkfield Cup? Do you know?
Firouzja.
Sasha just reported that.
Caruana won it.
Yep. And Caruana finished second.
From Iran, who left Iran. That dude.
He's now in France. Yes.
He's now in France. Oh wow. Okay, so Firouzja won it. Oh, by the way, if you saw Title Tuesday the other day, there was a guy called Jose Martinez who beat Hiraku and Magnus.
Wow.
Wasn't there? That's why I said, wow. I've never heard of this guy. Is that chess cheating? I've never done Title Tuesday. I qualify, but I've never done it because I'm going, how do you stop people from cheating? What's your thoughts on that, Sasha? How can you run through Hiraku and Magnus and go 11 for 11?
Well, first of all, cheating is here to stay. You have to embrace cheating. You have to love cheating, and then your life will be much easier. You will play a couple of games against cheater. You will know it in first 15 seconds. You will know very, very quickly. In my experience, when I'm playing cheater, as a guy with a lower rating than mine, he's starting the game with A4, H4, and so on. And I play black some reasonable moves, and I have after 15 moves, I have. Probably much better position. Nothing decisive yet, but I have center, I have everything. And all of a sudden after that, you cannot make any progress. Regardless what you try, there is always the defense on the other side, and you try this and you try that again. Eventually you're running out of time and you're losing by position at that time as well. So the cheating is there. It's just unfortunately part of the so-called
it's part of the game and everything.
Online chess, that's it. Now about exciting situations in the Chess Olympiad. I witnessed myself in Greece, Thessaloniki many years ago. It was 1988. There was at that time Russian, it was still Soviet Union, Olympic team was competing for gold with Hungarian team, which had Polgar sisters. And that was very intense fight, and there was a last round coming in. And all of a sudden, Russian or Soviet star Yelena Akhmelovska is not showing up for a game. Apparently, she ran away with U.S. team captain John Donaldson.
Yes.
Right, and she ran away, and they were trying to get help with U.S. consulate. Eventually, they flew to United States, and Russia lost, or Soviet Union lost gold to Hungarians. So that was very, very exciting situation there.
Yeah,
John Donaldson
and everything. Just really quickly and everything, because I know one of the other things that you are always concerned about, Jim, and everything. And I'm glad that you were able to get up this morning and join us, everything. But I know that you are a big proponent of things that go on not just in California, but also on the African nation and everything. So one of the stories that I had referred to earlier was this notion of Namibia having a drought, and a severe drought, a drought so bad that they're actually killing elephants and hippos in order to distribute meat and all along those lines. So I just wanted your thoughts around that, because I know that you do follow some of the African nations, and they've even done some work through your chess work with some of the African countries.
Yes, we have programs in Zambia, Uganda, and Cape Town, South Africa right now. But that's a sad story. It's a tragic story. When you think, but killing of any animals, many people are against that for food consumption, and there's a big push for a plant-based diet. But the fact of the matter is, the droughts are getting worse. The rainstorms are getting worse. Things are all changing, and this is the real thing. The threat to Europe and the United States has been mass migration. So immigrants are flooding away from these conditions. And you can understand, like in South America and Central America, their lives are in danger, and they're running away from a place where they cannot stay any longer. And these things we have to be sensitive to, but are there magic bullets for a solution? No. What we have to do is use common sense and humanity in dealing with the situation, which we have been short of recently. And we need to step it up, because this is not going to change. The climate changes haven't happened. They're going to continue to happen. Places like in the Northwest, which we're constantly having rainfall, are having massive forest fires now because the rains have dried up. And other places, you can think of in Germany, for example, there were massive rainfalls where people weren't accustomed to them. And so the flooding was just out of control. So, everything is new now. And the one thing I will say about the cheating, though, is International Master Ken Reagan has been fantastic about detecting cheating. And when he can run his systems analysis on it, games, and with a very high level of credibility detect it. So it does occur. I played online chess in tournaments where someone who loses all their other games plays magnificently against me and wins. And so we know that it does still happen. So.
And Ken is a regular on the chess show and does a regular analysis of the games.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, we'll be taping one not later this evening, but on tomorrow, that of course will air on his regular time of Saturday and everything. But you talked about the environment, and like I said, I'm not always the best with metrics and everything, but Japan, which is over there in the Asian theater and everything, is urging 4 million people, which sounds like a lot, to evacuate, as that typhoon is coming in their way, and they're expecting up to a meter of rain. So for those of you that are better at metrics than I am and everything, please tell our audience what a meter of rain looks like.
39 inches, nearly 40 inches. That's a ton of rain. But so I looked up some statistics, and worldwide, as of last year, more than 114 million people have been displaced because of climate change, which is shocking. That's more than 1% of the world's population. That's a lot of disruption. So, but I've got a question, back to chess for a second.
Yeah.
I married a smart woman, which might have been a mistake because she calls me out on my bullshit. If you marry a woman who's good at chess, does that make for trouble because you won't be able to get away with anything?
That's Sasha's wheelhouse.
Sasha actually married the Canadian chess champion, the country of Canada. So Sasha can give you some
multi-time
good insight on this particular area about marrying.
I was in trouble actually right before the marriage, because when we played chess and she would wipe me out like 10-0 or 9-1 in blitz games, and I felt I was very depressed, because I understood that, okay, after a few months or maybe say a year and a half, she will quit me, because simply it's not interesting to play with a passer like me, and she will definitely look for somebody more challenging for her. So I had to get chess books. It was many years ago. At that time, there were no computers, but there were good chess books. And I practiced a lot. And slowly I started to gain momentum. It was now 8-2 in her favor, then 7-3, then 6-4, and now we are playing almost equal. It's 5-5, she beats me still, 6-4 once in a while, but now it's much more balanced, and the marriage became much happier as well.
And on the subject of marrying smart women, there are downsides, but the upsides override them as far as I'm concerned. My experience has been, there's many advantages, but her calling me out on my bullshit is definitely annoying.
Yeah, I got you on that. Jacoby, I was going to get out of the chess just for a minute and everything, but Jacoby, there was a major moment, well, two major moments in the sports world and everything on American sports. One is that it looks like Caitlin Clark broke all kinds of records, and all along those lines, so she broke a WNBA rookie 3-point record in the win that they had yesterday. But I know that you're a baseball person, not as much a chess person, and apparently a Japanese player, Shohei Ohtani, made a Major League Baseball history after catching the first pitch from his dog. So apparently the dog made a major role on there, and they said it was a perfect pitch. So I'm wondering your thoughts around the first pitch coming from the dog, and apparently the dog knows how to throw a good pitch and everything. So this is something that was going on during the game, and then he hit a couple of homers as well.
Yeah, he might be the greatest player in the history of baseball. We don't know yet, but yesterday it was bobblehead day for Ohtani. If you got there early enough, you could get a bobblehead with him holding his dog, the dog that threw the pitch. So exciting day.
Yeah. What's your take on that, Jacoby? You work with the Durham Bulls and you're into baseball and everything. So what's your take on this dog that maybe having the best pitch of all?
Well, I mean, it was neat. I mean, it's a new way to do the first pitch. A lot of teams are doing that. But yeah, Shohei is the best player in baseball. I mean, Rick, you can go ahead and say he's the best player of all time because the numbers that he's actually going to be the only player potentially to have 50 home runs and 50 steals in 1 year. And nobody's done that yet. He's sitting at 40-40 right now. Well, above 40-40 with, I think it's another 6 other players that have done that, 6 or 9 players.
Ricky Henderson.
Yep.
So in LA, we are totally spoiled because
they really are.
The Dodgers are the most winning team over the past 10, 11 years in baseball, though we've only won 1 World Series, but we're used to them. They've got the best record in baseball right now, but we're still complaining because they're not enough ahead in their division.
Yeah,
there's always
and you guys show up late and leave early. That's what.
Because we're super jaded because we do well in sports, but we also have the Oscars and the Emmys, and those are really the sports that people in LA care about. Who's getting what deal from some studio?
What the
deal? You got the Lakers. You also got the Rams. Yeah. You guys are the sports entertainment.
Clippers, Chargers.
You should come to Raleigh, Durham. We don't have anything.
For a while,
we do. We have one of
the Durham Bulls. We got the Hurricanes. We've got the Carolina Courage, which is a soccer team.
We got one of the oldest rivalries in college basketball with not Duke and Carolina, actually Carolina and NC State. So we have one of those. We have one of the best, one of the best college rivalries. Well, 2 of them actually. One being Duke and Carolina, but also with NCCU and A&T. So we have a lot of great sports.
Oh yeah, you're right. And we have a big entertainment industry. We have Jacoby and Mark.
Incorrect. Right? We also have with the movie production studios down in New Hanover County, actually Wilmington. We still have one of the top tier areas now that we've changed the tax rate and incentives to bring back the movie industry. We still got that going. There's a lot of stuff. We're just not.
I see. Rick is jealous because of our huge
No,
Well, I want to know what teams are in Perth.
To be jealous, and Jatovi's sister has moved out there to the California area where she has great success.
She lives right there in Rick. She lives down there in Long Beach.
Isn't your sister some famous actress?
She right there. You know where they do the open wheel racing, where Mario Andretti. Yeah, she lives right down there.
She's in law enforcement, right?
Well, her wife is in law enforcement. Her wife is actually one of the only women to make the SWAT team. So
LA is we've got a lot of cop action here.
But I'd like
we actually don't have enough cops per capita in LA, which makes cops jumpy.
I mean, it's a tough job out there. Very tough job.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, a really cool thing about them is that when Kamala Harris was DA and then she was running for when she was Attorney General and then when she became Senator, my sister's wife actually had to be on the detail to protect Kamala Harris every time she came into the state or came into the city. But then on top of that, when they did a function for police at the White House, and they got a vase, and they've been to when they did the Pride stuff actually at the White House. Go out and hang out with the president and the vice president.
Yeah. Well,
So I think it should be a little easier to protect Harris versus Trump, because Trump claims to be 6'3". He's really about 6'1.5". He has lifts in his shoes, but Harris is only 5'2". So if you need to knock her to the ground to protect her, there's less height.
Before we go on, I want to know, Shaq, who'd you root for in Perth? In Australia, what were the sports teams?
Are you talking about who do I root for in the baseball from Perth? I'm actually in Sydney, but from Perth, or are you talking about what sports do I watch?
When you were growing up, you had to root for somebody.
Yeah, well, I actually moved to Sydney when I was 11. So I used to go for the West Coast. I still do go for the West Coast Eagles in the Australian rules football. And then in the NRL, I used to go for St George Dragons, which NRL is our rugby. But I actually sort of am not going for anybody at the moment in the rugby, because I actually know 3 of the coaches personally. And it's kind of hard to go to a game and then barrack against your mate who you're going to have dinner with after the game. So I sort of don't bet for anyone. I just go and watch the games. I do bet on the games quite a lot. And I also bet on the baseball. I don't watch much of the baseball because I just find it a little bit boring sometimes. It can be a bit slow. But I quite like San Diego. I watched one of their games, and like some dude's got a shoe in his head because apparently that's some good luck charm. And then when they do this thing with their head, and they like point to the thing when they hit a good when they've hit a good ball. So yeah, I think it's a fun game. But I haven't actually seen one in real life. So when I come to the United States, I do want to go to a big game because I think that'd be fun. I also haven't seen a real football game in America either. I have seen the ice hockey a couple of times in Vancouver, and that was cool. The stadium lighting up and all that sort of stuff, that was cool. So I do enjoy it, but I'm no sports. I'm not a sports
expert. Are you still
expert.
involved in sports yourself? Because there was a time that we talked earlier that you were involved in a sport as well, but I don't know if you're still involved. You haven't mentioned it in a while. So are you still involved in the sports world?
Well, with the body that I've got, I think that how active I am in sports. But if you're referring to horse racing and greyhound racing, yes, I am still involved in it, but not as heavily as I was during COVID.
Okay, so you're not as involved as heavily as you were during the COVID times and everything.
Well,
I know you were very much involved.
And also, I think, especially with the greyhound industry, it's an industry that's in flux at the moment. The animal rights people are expressing concern, have expressed some concern. Which, to be honest with you, a lot of it is rightfully so. I think that some of the concerns that they've had has been reasonable. But some of the things that they're asking for, I think, is unreasonable. And I think that it's dangerous to treat every trainer as if they're going to do the wrong thing. And it's also dangerous, I think, to look back at what maybe happened in decades past and then say we should ban something altogether. So I understand their concerns. I think it's the same with farming. people can make their own decisions on that. If you don't want to eat meat at all because you think it's immoral, well, that's a decision for you to make. Personally, having been made aware of factory farming methods, especially those methods that are used in the United States and aren't used elsewhere, I have a problem with that, and I will actually pay extra money to not eat factory farmed meat. I want, I think you call it pasture raised over there, the sort of organic free range stuff. I will pay the extra to get that sort of stuff. But yeah, as I said, I think that animal rights people are absolutely correct in pointing this stuff out, but I think they go a little bit too far when they try to ban stuff altogether.
Yeah, so our greyhounds unchill. We have a dog that's half whippet that we kind of inherited, and that dog was crazy for a long time, super high strung. Are greyhounds like nuts, just like super, just like, and
I went to the trainer who actually won the $1 Million Chase for me, which is the biggest greyhound race in the world. I went to his house for the first time, way back then, and he took me through the kennels, and I was looking at the kennels, and I was like, wow, these kennels are just beautiful. I think I should live in the kennels, so it's much cleaner than my own house. And I was looking at the greyhounds, I was like, well, what do? They just sit here all day, and then you just take them out and give them a run and, put them back? And he goes, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, well, they must get bored. Like, you put the TV on for, but you must do something for them. And he went, no, not at all. Anyway, one day they were out in the yard going to the toilet, and I said, maybe you should let them, stay out there for a bit longer. He goes, okay, no problems. You're in charge. You put them back when you reckon they should go back. And honestly, about 10 minutes, they weren't interested in being outside. They wanted to go back and go back to bed. So they actually sleep over 20 hours a day most of the time. And I can tell you, when it comes to being lazy, I think greyhounds have it. Have the medal for that. I mean, if you get a greyhound as a pet, you're going to find the thing on the couch, lying on its back on its, in some weird angle, on the couch most of the time. They're really not that active. When they're active, they're really fast, but other than that, they're just lying around.
Okay.
Rick, you mentioned whippets, and I've seen a person nearby that had a whippet as well here in Durham. But what exactly is the difference between a greyhound and a whippet? I know that they are related, but how they are related,
whippets, I think, smaller. But our dog was always ears. You know how when an animal's freaking out, their ears point straight back. We had years of this dog just being like, and it's taken her like 5 years to calm down.
You also don't know what that dog is been through as a puppy. If it's a puppy, it's been through any kind of abuse or any kind of, and it may not necessarily even be abuse at the hands of humans. It could just be that it had aggressive siblings or an aggressive parent or something like that. So you don't know whether that can have an effect.
That's what I was going to ask you, Shaquille, because I know even here in North Carolina, there is some folks that have had greyhounds, because there's apparently a whole rescue greyhound organization here and everything. So how big of a problem is this notion of greyhounds having to be rescued? Because like I said, I was surprised when I learned about this, and this was a couple of years ago and everything. And I know some people that have, just as acquaintances, that have adopted them and everything. But how big of a problem is this that you have to rescue greyhounds?
So by and large, sorry, Jim. Sorry.
Oh, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm just going
to. No, you go for it. Go for it. We're all here.
My fellow FM out here, I'm friends with. His wife has been rescuing greyhounds all her life. So it is. Once you're done racing, what do you do with them? All those types of things. And so there is a great need for people to take care of animals that no longer serve a purpose.
Your take on that, Shaquille?
Yeah, so it depends on what you mean by rescuing. So we don't really have an issue here where you need to rescue greyhounds from abusive owners. That generally doesn't happen. You do have the issue that Jim just brought up, which is that it's not just the greyhounds that are done racing, it's also the greyhounds that never make it to the track. The majority of greyhounds, the majority of racing horses don't make it to the track. What do you do with them? And, there is a cost associated with feeding them and looking after them. So, like in my personal opinion, the industry should pay for it. There's enough money going through the gambling markets that, you can take 1% of that money and look after the animals. I think that would be a move in the right direction. But yeah, look, it is a problem. And again, it's something that the animal rights people have brought up. But I think if you compare what's happening in Australia, which I think personally, and I know it could be a bit biased, but the racing product in Australia, I think, is better than anywhere else in the world. If you compare the greyhound racing side of things to the United States, the last place I'm aware of that banned it was Florida. But if you actually have a look at what was happening with greyhounds in Florida versus what happens in Australia, it's two different things. So, but there is some methods that people, the knee-jerk reaction is that's terrible, that's horrible. For example, when they put greyhounds in cages on top of each other, people will originally think that's an awful thing to do, how can you do it? But what they're not realising is the greyhounds love that. Now, we don't do that in Australia in the first place, but the greyhounds love that. You don't have a greyhound sitting by itself. It wants to be able to see everything else. So, look, as I said, I think everything takes a balance, and I would encourage animal rights people to actually have a conversation with us. We may not agree on if your position is we should ban it, and our position is that you shouldn't ban it. Okay, fine. We're not going to agree on that, but let's talk about the welfare of the animals and see if we can make improvements. And that's something that I would like to see. As of yesterday, I think I received an email from the racing regulator here in New South Wales saying there's a new inquiry, and it's been multiple inquiries over the last handful of years. So, as I said, it's just something that we have to try and get right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In a different kind of race, tonight is the first press conference with Harris and Walls on what ABC, CNN.
Yeah. So Donald Trump took the lead in the international betting markets last night, but it's razor thin.
Yeah.
And as I said, like over the last 10 days or so, Harris has been in the lead, then Trump's in the lead, then Harris is in the lead, then Trump's in the lead. So, the international betting markets have absolutely no idea, I think, what's going to happen. And what's very interesting is that both of them are over $2. So that implies that there's a possibility, the markets are actually pricing in a possibility that it will be neither of them. A very slim possibility, but a possibility nonetheless. So that's very interesting to see.
That is interesting.
But I can tell you, I've had a few conversations with my friends recently, and we've pretty much saying the same thing we've been saying since 2016. God, we love America. Thank goodness we're not American.
But one of the criticisms about the interview, and I don't know what Joey's thoughts or even Jim or Rick's thoughts are, is that she's having to do this with the vice president because it is both of them at the same time. And I know that some of the Republicans and others have been critical of this notion that
that's a total, turns out, if I didn't know this, but it's a total garbage criticism because traditionally over the past 20 years, the first press conference interview you do after you make the ticket, after you name your VP, is always a dual press conference. And in fact, it's smart for them to do it because the way the Republicans are looking for any misstatement to jump on. So if you have two people being interviewed, that cuts the odds that you're going to say something that can be jumped on in half.
Well, the thing is, no matter what she does, it was going to be criticized. It doesn't matter. Sure. So taking the she could do the interview by herself, then there would have been the criticism. Where's Waltz? He should answer for this. Just like they're doing now. Well, they're doing it with CNN, or should have done this. We just can't accept the interview anymore and ride with it. We're always looking for some.
Well, the one thing, Harris is articulate, and she's very sharp, and Trump is incoherent when he speaks now. So the more that people get to watch both of them, I think speaking, the decision would be easy.
I learned a new term yesterday, which is sane washing, which the press is being accused of, because Trump will say endless crazy crap, and then the press will clean it up and paraphrase and try to explain away the crazy or just ignore it to make him.
I don't think you're going to get very many people on the right that would agree with you that the press is on Trump's side. But let me just talk about Harris's interviews. Personally, I am a little bit disappointed that she hasn't given more interviews yet. And I'll tell you why. Forget about policies altogether. I actually have met a few females in my time, believe it or not, and a couple of them have been politicians. And the first female Prime Minister of Australia was somebody who I think was pretty unpopular. She wasn't very well liked. She had a very difficult prime ministership. But if you meet her, she's way different to how she comes across. And one of the things I've noticed with many female politicians that I know is that their strategists really try and constrain them. Don't go out and show your own personality. Just stick to the script kind of thing. And personally, I think that's quite harmful. Kamala Harris, some of the things that she gets criticized for, she has a bit of a laugh or a giggle and, stuff like that. I think if you were to sit down with her, I think she'd actually be really pleasant to sit down with and have a chat with you. If you took politics out of the equation and you're just having a glass of wine with her, I think she'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, I think that she needs to have the opportunity to be able to actually show that side of herself. Mm-hmm. And by not having more interviews, by not sitting down more, I think that is somewhat harmful.
Wait a minute.
But hold on a second, Shaquille. Part of the notion of what I've seen people criticize her about is what you just said. Because some of the commercials that you see from the Republicans is literally her dancing and her having a good time. So it's almost like
she's a great dancer.
Having too much of a fun time and everything.
Yeah, but you know what?
Positioning her as out to lunch and having too much fun time and everything.
But Mark, who do you want, right? The Conservatives have always tried to sell this bill of goods where you get some old dude, right? Like look at George H.W. Bush. Again, forget about his politics. How much fun are you going to get out of that guy? You know what I mean? Like it's like Bill Clinton, playing the trumpet, Obama, he was cool. Like, this is what people want. They want somebody that they can kind of relate to and that they can like, even if they don't necessarily agree with all their policies. And all I'm saying is I think that Kamala Harris, it's a disservice to her to try to constrain that personality, because I think she's got a wonderful personality.
Wait a minute. Just first, but I got to respond to that.
Yeah, just a real quick thing. We have to understand where we live, how we live in our society, or our societal views. Women are judged differently than men. So she has to actually play into a particular role that is palatable to a patriarchy that we live in, because she gets graded on a cackle. Men laugh and they look funny too, but we don't say anything about that. Men do particular things that they like. Right now, we're talking about how this woman talks, and she can speak in complete sentences. Yet we're allowing Trump, who doesn't, be the top of a ticket. We're grading him on such a curve, on that masculinity curve, because it used to be, okay, yeah, what you're talking about, Shaq, yes, it's somebody you want to have a beer with. That has always been the saying throughout presidential politics. That's whoever you want to have a beer with. Right now, you don't want to have a beer with a crazy dude talking about dying with either sharks or electric motorboats. You want to have a beer with
drink, so there's no fun there.
You want to have a beer with somebody that you can actually have a conversation with. But we're judging her on a curve because she is a woman, and saying that, well, she has, like one of the criticisms, the one that we started this conversation off with Mark, how people are saying, well, she has to have a man with her. She doesn't. But we're not even talking about the history that Rick pointed out, that it's been 20 years in that. We're saying that she has to have an interview. She's done multiple interviews before she got named as the president. She's had 30 some odd days. I think it now hits 40. But she had to put together a dancing convention. She had to do the due diligence of actually doing the background checks on who she's going to run with. She had to meet the electors, and actually, so she had a ton of stuff to do in a month. And we're saying that, well, she's not doing a bunch of interviews. Matter of fact, after the horrible debate, and again, if you go back to the debate, after that debate happened, people wanted not only Biden gone, but they also wanted Trump gone. But the noise about Biden superseded everything and drowned out the complaints about Trump. So everybody wrote that. But Kamala Harris did an interview that night.
Yeah.
So it's just, we're grading her on such a curve against women. A curve for something against women, something against, she's stealing the election, all these just crazy things. Well, we're not actually having a legitimate discussion.
What are you talking about?
Hey, Nick, I was up.
you have a huge group of
Nick,
women
I
that
guess the rules don't apply.
Nick, hold on a second. Jim was next.
you know, give me a
Yeah.
break.
Jim
Come
was
on,
next.
Toby, get real.
It's really
You
going to
know?
be strange, but I'm going to disagree with Shaq. You know, we have a long history of agreeing on everything. You know,
Even when I give her a compliment, I get disagreed with. I can't win, can I?
But it's the only thing that it's what Jacoby just said. You know, she's only been in the race a very short period of time in which she has to not only handle the convention but assemble a team, you know, coordinate all sorts of activities. And the thing is, as a senator, we got to see her grilling people over and over and over again, and she was fantastic at it. So there's no question that when America gets to know her better than it has now, because vice presidents don't really get a lot of time with the press, but you know, they're going to like her. You know, there's not that much to dislike about her as a person. And when you talked about George H. Bush, you know, not having to be, he was totally qualified for that job. His son wasn't, but his son was one of those guys you could see having a beer with.
Working. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
well, but I guess it's like Mike Pence, right? Like, you know, I would imagine like hanging out with Mike Pence,
vice president.
Yeah, but like I'm just as a conservative person, right, I would imagine hanging out with Mike Pence would be about as exciting as watching paint dry. Now, he may be very well qualified in politics and stuff, but like I can't imagine that being much fun. And what I'm saying about Kamala Harris is, and I get the criticism that what Toby just said, and I think what you're echoing, that, you know, she's in a difficult position. But it's just been my experience that women in politics tend to do much better when they break the mold a little bit, rather than just sticking to the script. That tends to be my observation. I could be wrong, you know, but that's just been my personal observation of things that I've seen.
But
and also with Trump,
do more
what you've got
now.
with Trump, what you've got is
have done them already. That's what I'm saying.
Now, with Trump, what you've got is a cult of personality. Really, that's what it comes down to. Absolutely. At the end of the day, forget about his policies. The Republicans are trying to say his policies are fantastic. Forget about that. Nobody's voting for his policies. People are voting for him because it's him, because he's, you know, it's a cult of his personality. And I think that she needs to kind of counter that by coming out with her own personality. And look, that Mamala thing, look, I think that's a bit cringe. So maybe don't go down that path, but she can come out there. And she doesn't have a lot of time. You know, early voting is, 70 days away. Like, she's got to... Yeah, you've got to get out there and start
all over the country.
So you can look at the White House that she's coming out of, and we've learned in the last couple months that it was total bunker mentality, and that like, you know, everybody was like worried that about every sentence that Biden may or may not slaughter. You know, there was a skittishness because Biden's verbal skills were like a minefield. And there was a focus on that. And so are her people, who are largely his people, are they still skittish? About
what they're doing.
Hold on just one second. I have a quick question for Shaquille. Why did you say that Mamalu was cringe? Because a lot of times there is a lot of blended families. Shucks, my own brother is in pretty much a blended family and everything, as is my dad and everything. So there's a lot of blended families out there. So why did you find this? I
was referring more to the way that Drew Barrymore did it on her show. That was the incident I was referring to. I just found that to be a bit cringy. Look, it's no big deal. I just found it to be a bit cringy, right? I do have a question for the panel though. I'd like to know if you can set your own personal opinions, feelings about who you would like to see win. Who do you guys think will win, not just the presidency, but also the Senate and House races?
I would, in terms of the Mamala thing, I think that was a play on what the kids did. And I can understand it being cringe because, you know, there are certain, you know, nicknames families have for their, you know, people around them. And yeah, I find some of them cringe too, but it's just, it's a family knit thing. And I think that's the idea that they're going for. And I think that, and to get to your question, Shaq, that's why I think that she has such a movement behind her. I do think that she has an opportunity to eke it out. It all depends on if people, or especially men, if men can get by the idea of having a woman leader, that is the issue. And I think she can win because I think a lot of younger voters which she's winning in that demographic, are extremely motivated by what they saw at the DNC and what they see by her and the positive energy. Because again, I think that's the idea that they're going for. They don't want to go for this is what I am and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm going for this positive. This is who I am, but on a positive note. I think that's gravitating a lot of people. So that's why I think she has the opportunity. I think will win due to that, because I think people are.
What do you think about the Senate and House races?
Senate and House races, I think the GOP will probably take the Senate. House, I'm not sure, because there are more battle states that the Democrats have to protect more so than the actual GOP. Right. However, down ballot governor's races are really hurting the GOP because governor's races, and there are a few Senate races like Kari Lake and but Robinson, North Carolina. Those individuals are dragging down that ballot. So the House could be a toss-up. Senate will probably go Republican, but I think Kamala will end up winning the presidency.
Yeah, I agree with all of what Toby just said. It's one of those things that, look back at 2022, it's supposed to be a red wave. It was nothing of the sort. And people are just sick of the MAGA stuff. I think it's time for it to be gone. Trump to be put in the dustbin of history. And all those people that were backing him have to realize that the Republican Party is not what it once was. It was a respectable party. It had principles. And with Trump as the leader, it has none of those principles. And so you can't say, they're pro-Russia now. Come on. What's this? It's crazy. And, so this kind of stuff is just going to have to stop. And I think that you can fool some of the people all the time. And Donald Trump is a con man, and he's fooled a lot of people for a long time. But people have caught on. And he's no way.
Your favorite reporter went to Russia.
Of the votes, but they're going to come down to this 6 or 7 swing states again. And Kamala Harris,
your favorite reporter, Tucker Carlson, actually went to Russia.
Jack, I'm talking. When he's got the swing states, and she's got so much fundraising power that she's going to be very super present in those swing states. And if she carries those swing states, she will win. But the Democrats are in a bad situation in the Senate because most of them are up for re-election. Far more of them are up for re-election than Republicans. And the House is going to be it's going to be an interesting contest. But I don't doubt that the Republicans will be unhappy after the election again.
Your favorite reporter went to Russia, Tucker Carlson. He actually went over to Russia.
Yeah,
he actually interviewed Putin. And the Republicans are like, go Putin. And I'm like, really? Really? Come on now.
Yeah.
Putin was disappointed he didn't have to answer that question, but really quickly, I'll do mine in 30 seconds. I think it's going to be a split vote, and you folks in Australia and the rest of the world are going to enjoy it because that's going to be kind of an interesting environment because it'll be a Democratic president in Kamala and a very Republican House and Senate and everything, which means that it's going to be hard to get anything done. So I think that's what we're heading for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, speaking about Russian assets, so Donald Trump, a lot of people believe that maybe he is or maybe he isn't. But what just being revealed with this story of arrest of Pavel Durov, which we discussed yesterday, and by the way, he's already indicted, there are already charges against him. And apparently the closest ally of Trump by the name Elon Musk is operating with billions of dollars of Russian money. It's Russian money that helped him to buy Twitter. He could not do it, and there are names of the Russian oligarch who supplied billions of dollars. So remember, who is paying? He dictates the policy. So Elon Musk is a Russian asset, give or take tens of billions of dollars. He is influencing Donald Trump, who is himself, believe it or not, is a Russian asset. So now, are Americans that stupid to elect the con man who is operating with the help of Russian money and all his subordinates like Elon Musk, who is going to get a cabinet post if Trump will ever win? Now, if Trump will not win, then Elon Musk might as well leave the United States because he will be taken to cleaners really for everything what he's doing. Okay.
He really
Well, he's going to get those astronauts back from Boeing's screw up. Nick and Rick, you guys haven't commented yet. You've got 30 seconds before the show ends.
I'm innocent. I'm going to be in.
Oh
Spain.
no, I remembered my point, which is a lot of Republicans are now admitting that Trump is a terrible guy, and the evangelicals are saying, well, he's like King David in the Bible. King David was very sketchy. King David did some terrible stuff before he became godly. I don't think that Trump has been or will ever be godly.
Well, I don't see godliness being in his future. I do actually personally think he'll win this, but I think it's going to be very, very tight. The Senate, I think, will go to the GOP. I'm kind of hoping that the Democrats will take the House, because I think it's not a good idea for the Republicans to have everything with him as the president. But look, who knows? I mean, the polls are so tight. The odds are changing every day. Very, very hard to tell.
I agree with you on that. It's very hard to tell. We're going to get out of here. We'll have more conversation about these news items and even some of the political items later on this evening on World Politics. And, of course, World Edition on tomorrow on Friday. But right now, it's time to get on out of here. And Barbara Smith will be coming our way at noon. And so she'll be having some thoughts around business and all along those lines. But right now, it's time to get on out of here.